Hello, Sit Room executives. Welcome back. Joining us today is multifamily investor, syndicator, and entrepreneur with more than 15 years of experience in real estate. He was a former C-level suite executive turned real estate investor after the company where he worked was bought out and the entire management team was replaced by the new CEO. If you think your job and career are secured, Agostino Pintus will challenge you to think twice about that. First, you can start by asking yourself, is this the best that I can do? If anything, you owe it to yourself and family to expand your mind and get out of your comfort zone. Agostino shares with us the critical step he took to go from 0 to over 700 units in less than 28 months. All right, Agostino, thank you for joining us today. It is a pleasure.
Happy to be here, man. It's going to be awesome.
Excellent. So let's go ahead and get started. So tell us about your background and how you got started in real estate.
Absolutely. So previous to doing real estate, real estate today, anyway, in terms of multifamily, which is what my focus is today, I was a C-level executive in corporate America, worked for several Inc. 500 companies, managed large multi-million-dollar type of budgets and ran enterprise IT, right? And I was doing that for, God, since I was in my 30s, so almost 20 years at this point, maybe even longer than that. And the thing is that I always operated in fear, right? Meaning that even though I had good jobs, between the bad ones, of course, because everybody has sometimes people get into really bad situations with different companies. I was always operating in fear. And what I did was I sought out real estate early on as a way out. And that was doing single family and small multifamily. And I figured, you know what, if I can get enough of these little deals, I can get enough cash flow. And if something happens to me, I'll have some extra cash coming in, right? So that was the thought process, 15, 16, going on 17 years now, actually, on getting into the whole real estate game. And it wasn't about today where it's about abundance, finding big deals, like changing the whole mindset from small deals and scarcity and being afraid and fear to now being fearless, attacking big deals, forging alliances with partners, and just taking down the biggest stuff you could possibly do. It's a whole different mind shift. It's a whole different thing. And that's what I do now, man. And I'm very lucky that exposure to corporate America had helped me transition to doing these big multifamily type deals. And today over the past 28 months or so, GP'd on over $40 million worth of deals, over 700 units at this point. So yeah, we're growing very, very quick. And I have another deal going on downtown. I can't really talk about it just yet. I'll have to come back on to share that information. So that's going to be huge. But that's going to be over 400 units right there. So that's going to be a biggie. That's going to be a biggie. So it's going to be exciting. But the point is though, is that it involved shifting the mindset from scarcity to abundance, and it's not easy to do. It's just not easy to do. That's all.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because this is one thing that I think that I tend to hear a lot from people in general, especially those that have started off in single family and transition into large multifamily. And they always talk about, kind of that flip of the switch in the mind, and what it is, I think that a lot of people are just itching to know is what is that process like? How did you make that switch? You mentioned your experience in corporate America. Is there any general guidance or anything you can provide our listeners to kind of
Sure.
help them get on that path to making that switch?
There's that saying, I'm sure you and all your audience has heard it before, by Jim Rohn, that says you are the sum of the 5 friends you hang out with, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you're in corporate America and you're hanging out with 5 corporate America people, you're number 6. What's all those people thinking about? They're thinking about Friday. They're thinking about their paycheck. They're not thinking about abundance. They're not thinking about growth. They're not thinking about all that. They're praying, oh God, please get me to Friday because I don't want to come back here on Monday. I mean, that's the general thought process. We are wishing time away. That's what they were doing. They're wishing time away, right? It's crazy. I used to be one of those guys, right? So when you're stuck in that little group of people doing the same sort of thing, you don't really think about anything else beyond it. That's problem number one. And then once I was forced to get out because they hand me the box, the new CEO comes in, the old CEO leaves, the one that hired me on, and new CEO comes in and he says, you know what, I'm bringing my own guys in, pack up your stuff, get lost. Now you're forced to think about something else, right? Now the routine is broken. Now what? Right? Now what am I going to do? I'm in my 40s. What am I going to do now? Right? And you really have to think about, is this the best I can do? Ask yourself, when you really have to, and this is what I would challenge all your audience. Like when you get home tonight or wherever you are right now, you sit down on a living room couch, look around and ask yourself, is this the best I got? Is this the best that I can come up with for my entire life that I get one shot at? I get one shot at doing this thing that we're doing right now. Is this the best I can do? If the answer is yes, then fine, you're living your best life. But if the answer is no, you owe it to yourself and to your family to try to expand your mind and get out of that comfort zone. And the way you do that is to expose yourself to different ideas, different concepts, and different people that can change your life. So one of the things that I did was I was reaching out to people on LinkedIn. This is years ago. I would try to reach out to at least one person every day that if I became friends with them, they could change my life. Every day, right? That's hard to do, man. You'd think it's easy. It's not easy. It's hard, right? Because you basically try to find people in your area and that could change your life. And it would like connect with you on LinkedIn and then maybe try to coax them into getting a coffee with you. But I'll tell you what, man, it freaking works. That works. I did it. And it's funny because I met two guys this way. One ended up being the president of some large brokerage firm in Indianapolis, who's still a very good friend of mine to this very day. And the other guy I met, he gave me the whole idea of this whole syndication thing. I had no idea what it was. And I happened to get on the phone with him after having a coffee with him, became somewhat friendly. And he told me, he goes, yeah, you syndicate these big deals. So I'm like, what's that? What's syndication? And he explained the whole thing to me. And I'm like, oh my God, I could do that. That's what I'm going to do. And that's exactly what I did. I decided to do it. But expanding the network is really what it is, right? So it's getting out of the habit that we've been stuck at and doing something better to build a better life. That's really what it was.
Mm-hmm. What do you say to some of those people that may say, oh, well, I'm from this small no-name town, whatnot, USA, and we just don't have those types of people or whatnot in my community. What do you say to those guys?
Well, all right. I come from a small town in Canada, man. All right. I had to pay my own way through school. I had, I have an undergrad in engineering tech, and then I did 2 master's degrees, an MBA and a second master's information systems. I'm not saying it to flex or anything else like that. I'm saying it because I paid my whole way for all this education. And the thing is I was working 2 jobs to do it. I was killing myself to do it. And I was financing everything on credit cards. My car had no floor in it. Literally all there was a carpet. It was an old Chrysler, right? So it's like water would come in during the wintertime or the summer. Oh yeah, man. I think I'm joking. I'm not kidding. I mean, my family, they're immigrants from Italy, so, that's why I say that if I can do this, if I can build all this, then anyone can do it from anywhere. I mean, it was not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy. But the biggest shift that needs to take place is all in your mind. We're the same. Everyone has the same stuff. We're all made of the same stuff. What is the difference? The difference is what we process in our minds and make it real. That's ultimately what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what it is. And I chose back then to go to school, sacrifice everything to go get this education because I was told this is what you need to do. If you want to be rich, you need to go to school, which is a lie. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true.
It is so not true.
Yeah, right. But you know what though? That's what I was told. Like, when my parents, they came over from Italy, and they're like, this is what you do. You go to school. Because everyone in their little town, because they came from little towns too, all the wealthy people were doctors or lawyers. They were, educated people, judges, that kind of thing, right? So thoughts, I mean, I guess it must say, the logic, oh, well, they must have went to school to get that rich, so that means you must go to school too, right? That's the people that are telling us to do this. And yeah, like I said, it's totally not true. It requires hard work. Absolutely. It requires networking and education. Absolutely. Mentoring, coaching. Absolutely. But yeah, it's not a necessity. No way. Not even a stretch.
It's funny you mentioned that because I saw an article, I think it was yesterday or the day before that, and it was on, I think it was CNBC, and the headline was just simply put, Americans that are earning $100,000 a year are finding it hard to make ends meet. They're basically running out of money, before running out of month. And I pulled up the chart, and I was actually quite surprised to see this. They'd broken it down into different brackets, and even those Americans that are earning, I think it was like around $200,000 or $300,000 a year, some 39% of them are also faced with those same financial problems. And you would think, well, if you're earning $200,000 or $300,000 a year, I mean, you should definitely be quite well off, and you wouldn't have these types of financial problems. But surprisingly, they do. So I mean, you're absolutely right. It definitely is not true. What it is that they've been pushing on us for years.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Here's the thing. That whole 40-hour week concept is all new, right? It's not that old. I mean, Henry Ford brought it around for the production line. Prior to that, this was a nation of entrepreneurs. We worked for whatever had to get done, and then until we got money on the table. That's it, right? That's all new. It was designed for the industrial age, because back then they needed soldiers, they needed workers. That's what they needed. That's what the nation needed at that time. And we're still using the same antiquated system today, right? So now these people, knowledge workers predominantly at this point, they are using the same old model, working a W-2 job, the most highly taxed way to earn income. This is the worst way to get income is to do a W-2 job, because it's the highest tax, meaning that if you had income from real estate, it's not taxed nearly as much as earned income, right? But but we've been sold that this is what you do. You go and go get the earned income type of job. Ridiculous, but many people don't know it. That's the thing. It's like you said, they fall into that rut. They do the 40-hour week because they're told what to do. That's what they're told what to do. And that's what they do. This is just how it is, right? Isn't that how it's done? Next thing you know, they get to the six-figure club. Because I remember when I was in my 20s, I wanted to get to the six-figure club, and I make it, and it's like it's still not enough. It's like how does that even happen, right? And I mean, there's a whole litany of reasons why, and we could talk about that on another episode, right? Because everything from spending too much money to not budgeting properly. But I think the biggest problem is that people are not investing for their future, right? They're just living they're living the paycheck to paycheck. The only difference between a six-figure attorney and the girl that works at the IHOP is the attorney's bills are bigger. That's it. It's the same. They're still living hand to mouth. All of them do. Right? That's totally the wrong way to do it. We should be investing our money in real estate. It's the only asset where the lenders are calling you to give you money. I swear, man. I mean, they will call me. They're begging me to take their money. And I've started up other businesses before. There's nothing out there where the banks are saying, please, please take our money. Do you have a good deal? Give us the deal. We'll take the deal. I mean, they're competing to get the deal. Ridiculous. And all you're doing is coming up with 20% of whatever it is that you're doing. There's nothing else on this planet that will work the same way as real estate. Here in the States, especially, it just doesn't exist.
Yeah. So you made that transition from corporate America to real estate. And I mean, you're highly active in your area right now. And you've got a lot of deals in the pipeline, and you've already closed on a lot. So, let's kind of talk a little bit about some of the earlier challenges that you were faced with after you made that mindset change.
Yeah.
So what would you say were some of the key challenges that you were faced with when you were just getting started with multifamily?
Yeah, today I will say that there's challenges at every deal. I could talk about challenges all day long about sellers not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or trying to, you're doing a $4 million deal and the guy's trying to squeeze another $6,000 out of you, which actually happened. That's a whole, seriously, that's a real thing. I don't get it, but I don't think it's going to be nearly as helpful as to try to explain the transition from how do I, as a person that wants to get into this business, get into multifamily? How do I do it from where I'm at today? And here's what I did. All right. So, and unfortunately, I did it without any coaching. So the first thing I would say is, if you could find a good coach that'll back you up and keep you from making mistakes, at least consider that. And people will say, oh, I don't have the money for that. Listen, you'll make all that money back on the first deal. Totally worth it. Use the credit card. Doesn't matter. Go do it. All right. But here's the thing though, too. Before you can even do any of that stuff, all right, the big recommendation is you got to change your mind. And what I mean is, you have to make the decision, burn the bridges, burn the ships, burn everything, right? When I made the decision, I sold everything. I liquidated everything I could to buy a big multifamily place on my own. I'm not recommending people do that, but I did it on my own because I wanted people to take me seriously. So when I'm talking about multifamily stuff, I put everything on the line. I'll do it. Fine. I'll dump it all in. This is how serious I am about it, right? Most people won't do that, right? They won't do it. I mean, they won't. They're afraid to make that decision, and they're afraid to put everything on the line to do it because I think. It takes courage to make money, right? You got to believe in yourself. But aside from that, you have to build the team, right? So aside from liquidating everything, put it all on the line, making the decision, it's building the team, right? The team is super, super important. Okay. And the attorneys, the property managers, the contractors, all that, you're going to go through a ton of contractors, especially the hotter the economy is, the more contractors you're going to go through, because all the good contractors are working for another group. They're actually employed by a company that's keeping them busy and off the streets, right?
Mm-hmm.
The bad contractors are the ones that are left, and typically they will. It's going to sound terrible, but they're living hand to mouth too, right? So they're always waiting for that next hit, that next paycheck. And if they're on a bender that weekend, they'll hit you up for another $1,000 or whatever. Oh, can you pay me in advance? You pay them in advance, you'll never see them again, right? So there's things you have to do to protect yourself against that. And you're going to go through a lot of those guys. But when you do speak to them, you're asking for references. You're talking to people that have done work for them in the past. It's not a guarantee that it's actually real. Same thing when they show you photos. Not a guarantee, but you really have to listen to what they're saying and feel what they're saying. How are they saying it? Listen to their voice. Listen to their patterns. Are they speaking fast? Are they speaking slow? How are they saying it? Listen, right? But most importantly, I think more important than finding an attorney or a contractor or property inspectors or all that jazz, management, operations. The deal lives and dies by management, all of it. If the manager sucks, your deal will fail. Simple as that. You can have the best deal in the world, man. You can find the best ones like this. Look at this. It's in cash flows. It's at 85% right now, but you know what? I can get this thing to 95 and this thing will be a beast. Yeah. You install a bad manager in that place, it's going to suck and people are going to hate you for it. So the key is to find good managers. So then how do you find good managers? This is the hard part, because unfortunately, and hopefully property managers, they're not listening, but many property managers suck. They're not that good. They're not that good. There's only 15% of them out there that are actually good. And typically the ones that are really good, they're big, they're successful. And if you're trying to manage, if you have a little 16 unit property, you're going to struggle because they don't want to deal your 16 unit property. They want to deal with big deals, right? So that means you have to interview not one, not two, not three property managers. You're interviewing 10, 15, 20 property managers minimum to hopefully narrow it down to three, maybe. And then you pick one. That's ultimately what it is. And you're going to try to find, for me anyway, when I was starting out, I didn't want to find one that's too gigantic, nor did I want to find one that's too small. I want to find one that's in the middle. Maybe they manage, I don't know, 1,000 to 3,000 units, something in that realm, but they've been in business for a long time and knew the lay of the land. So when I'm constructing my team and going off to raise money and go talk to brokers, I can say, oh yeah, do you know Joe that works at ABC Property Management? Oh yeah, I know Joe. Joe's a good guy. Well, because Joe's been in that area for 30 years, he knows the brokers. He's been around. The company's been around, so it's recognizable, right? Mm-hmm. If you just go with anybody, whoever it is, property management, no one knows who they are. It's going to make you look like a novice. But if you're leaning against some experienced people, maybe one of the recognized attorneys in the city, recognized property manager, recognized property inspectors, all these people that are known in the business in that area that you're focused on, then you're going to be way more successful. Even as a newbie that's starting out, you're going to be able to lean on their experience and their knowledge and know-how. Because one thing also to mention is that many of these people that have been in that area for a while, they also have leads that can get you in front of deals, get you lending, get you all these other things, because they're in the local area. They know who to talk to get things done, right? So that's why, go with someone that's known, but interview a ton of people to find the best one, because unfortunately you're going to kiss a lot of frogs. I'm telling you right now, it's that part. But that part in itself, once I made the decision that I was going to do this, building the team mm-hmm. and committing a lot of time to doing it, it was super, super, super important. It's paramount. It's absolutely paramount. Got to do it.
So let me ask you this, because you're talking about building relationships with property managers, yeah. Right? Now, do you typically prefer to kind of go with local, kind of like, let's say, market leaders within that city, or are these kind of like national or regional type property managers?
Yeah, that's a good question. So right now, my group and I are focused on one area. So all we do is stuff in and around Cleveland. That's it. So as far south as Canton, as far north as Lorain, but Cleveland and Akron is our bread and butter. That's where we stay, right? We have plans to go to alternate cities, but when we do go to those alternate cities, we'll either bring the management with us. It's a third-party manager, right? We'll either bring them with us or partner with another manager in that local area, right? Mm-hmm. One of the two things, right? But the key is that there's one manager that's doing the whole portfolio. One manager, right? Mm-hmm. We don't jump around. I don't go to different cities and all that fun stuff and do 100 units in Atlanta and do another 50 units in Texas. I don't do anything. I don't play that game. That's not what I do. I stay in one area, lock down that area. I know this area. I know how much I know. I can tell you just by talking on the phone with a broker. He throws out some numbers. I know if it's a good deal or not. I already know it because I'm in my space, right? I stay in one spot. And the property management group that I use anyway, they've been in this space for 30 years, so everyone knows this group. Everyone knows the manager. Everyone knows the company. I talk to any broker that's been in the business more than 10 years. They know the team, right? So that's how I decided to really get things rolling. And like I said before, if I would have went with some unknown, yeah, I'm Joe Schmo from Cleveland who just opened up his doors last 6 months ago, and he's a property manager. Really? Okay. Yeah, sure. I mean, no one's going to give you a $4 million deal or a big deal if that's what if that's who you're partnering with on your property management. No one will do that. No bank will allow it. The bank will look at it and be like, you're crazy, man. Because the banks know. The banks do the backgrounds. Listen, the bank's the biggest partner. They're putting up 80% of the money. You better believe they're going to research them. You better know they're going to research them. You got to have a good, solid company. But I have nothing against nationals or anything else like that, but they're just too big. They're huge, if you're going to have your 100 unit or even a 200 unit deal and they're managing 20,000, they don't really care too much about your 200 unit. They just won't. Maybe they will, but I don't know. I just find that the smaller ones on the smaller side will keep a better eye on it because you're a bigger fish in their small pond.
Yeah, and that makes more sense too. I remember when I was looking in a different market, it was last year actually, and I was reaching out to some property management companies to establish a relationship and to get some of their thoughts on this one deal I was looking at. I was actually quite surprised to see that I think there was only one. I sent messages and made calls and left messages. It was like 15 different companies, and they're supposed to be, fairly reputable, large enough companies to be able to handle it. But the response I got from the one manager was, no, that's not an area that we would want to go in, and not a property we're willing to work with, because they were familiar with the property. I mean, needless to say, that basically completely turned me off to the deal after I got that feedback. But yeah, I mean, have you experienced any of that before? Or
Well, yeah. When I'm looking at deals,
mm-hmm.
I actually run it by my property manager before I do anything. So, I'll run the numbers and stuff like that, but then I'll send it over to my guy and I'll be like, hey man, listen, what do you know about this deal? He knows, because that's the good thing about partnering with a property manager that knows the area very, very well. They know who all the players are. They know that some other group out of North Carolina owned this thing. They way overpaid for it. Now they're trying to sell it to some other sucker for $20,000 more than what it's worth, because they overpaid for it. They paid $17,000 more than what it was worth. And they're trying to sell it for $20,000 just so they can recoup their loss, basically, right? And but anyway, the property manager knows all this. They know who the players are. They know when that thing's sold. They don't have to look it up. They just know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they've been there for that long. So yeah, partnering up with the right property manager in that sense is great. But I think something else you touched on is that most property management companies, their sales and marketing is not that strong. And when you said all that stuff about how you reached out to all those people, and I wasn't surprised. It's like that's unfortunate
Mm-hmm.
that most property management companies, the smaller ones anyway, they're very weak when it comes to their sales and marketing effort. And I think that for anybody out there right now that is in property management, or is even thinking about starting a property management company, if you master sales and marketing and you become really, really good at getting your name out there, running the Facebook ads, talking to people about how you will advertise their property at the local Amazon distribution center that opened 3 minutes away. And this is how I did it. And you start doing social media stuff like that, you will crush. I am telling you, because these people don't do it. They just refuse to do it. I have to sometimes I even have to tell my property manager specifically, all right, man, listen, take these vacancies, go down to Amazon and put up the post. Let's go do that. I mean, I still have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I still have to do that, So yeah, it's managing as an asset manager. I'm supposed to do that, but that's generally what we're doing as an owner. That's what you're doing. You're
Mm-hmm.
trying to find ways to boost occupancy. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway.
What would be your key tip maybe for managing these properties, property managers? Because like you just mentioned, some of them are just pretty weak on, the marketing aspect and things. So what would be like your key tip for managing them?
Everything, everything that we do as people, um, yeah, everything that we do is based on trends, right? Everything, trends. What does that mean exactly? Well, whether it's trends, fashion trend, whether it's a trend of data, whether it's a fads. A fad is a trend, right? So
Hmm.
people love trends, right? Well, one thing that I do as a trend is I have a KPI call with my managers on every single property every single week, and they claim it's a lot of work because I'm the only one that makes them do this, which is mind blowing to me. I don't get it. I mean, I'm the only one that's asking you for this data. Like, how much money did we make this week? That seems to be a lot, right? But it's ridiculous if you ask me. I mean, you really should know. In my opinion, I want to know every day how much new money's come in, especially on a property that's, say, could be performing better. I want to know every single day how much money's come in today. How much money's come in today? Where's my occupancy at? You got to go crazy. You got to become obsessed with it, right? I do it once a week. Every week, I go over and I see where we go, like what's going on, and then we put it into one sheet, and week by week, right? We're documenting, and then you see a trend. If you see the number of units that are vacant is still the same over 3 weeks now, and they say that they are marketing it, clearly something is broken. It's broken because there should be well, and then of course one thing I left out was how many applications came in, how many applications were denied, like all those different things. I mean, you're capturing all that information too. You're capturing income, you're capturing occupancy, you're capturing how many people have skipped out. I mean, all these different things in a KPI list. But I'm talking specifically occupancy right now. And it's like, and you capture a trend, right? You look it over the last 3 weeks. Okay, listen, we have 15 vacants. What's going on? Why is it still vacant? Have we not run the ad? Where's the ad at? Oh, well, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, then someone's not doing their job is what it sounds like to me, right? And then you have to start making some decisions. Okay, do you pick this up yourself? Do you fire someone? Like, what are you going to do, right? But that's the biggest tip, is that you must keep an eye out on that asset manager, on the property manager as an asset manager. Every week, you're having that phone call. You're going through a KPI list. How much money did you make? How much money was lost? How many evictions do you have? How all those different things. You're keeping track of everything all the way down the line. Every week, you're doing this. And if something's gone on for 3 weeks, make a change. Something's got to change. Something's, especially in a hot market. Like if you're like Cleveland, for instance, right now, it's a good, strong market. We get hit up all the time on Facebook that people looking for places to live. There shouldn't be any reason why those places should be empty. There's a problem somewhere, right?
Hmm.
Manage the asset. You got to manage the asset, and people don't want to do that. That's the unfortunate thing. It's a hard job. I'm not saying that people don't want to do it because they're lazy or things like that. It's tough. It's tough to do. It's even tougher to make the decision to start making some major changes. That's even harder. But that's what you got to do as an asset manager. Yeah, sometimes you may have to pull the plug on someone. Sometimes it's going to happen.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, what would be a key tip that you'd have for new people that are looking to get started?
Well, like I said, you gotta change your mind. You gotta change the mindset. And I think that the biggest problem that many people have, and I had the same problem, was defining the overall goal, right? So for me, it was what I do today anyway, is I write out my affirmations every day, every morning. I go to the gym, I come home, I write out my affirmations, I write out my future, I write it out. I have my Tesla Cybertruck that I already pre-ordered. I already got that coming. And then I envision it. I envision that car rolling up, right? That's the car that I want, right? I'm getting it. I already pre-ordered it. I have a beautiful house on the beach, and I have a beautiful house in Miami, overlooking the water. The more details you can add, the better. And then you visualize it. It all starts up here. And the funny thing is that your subconscious does not know the difference, right? It doesn't know what's real and what's not real, right? Like you ever have a dream and then you wake up and you're kind of, or a nightmare, and you wake up, you think you're still in the nightmare.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's kind of, you don't realize, you wake up and you're like, where the hell am I? What's going on? Yeah. That kind of stuff is actual. That's real. But when you tell yourself this, you activate something in your brain called the reticular activating system, and it starts looking for those things. Like as soon as I started talking about a Tesla, like when the Cybertruck came out, like 6 months ago, or even less than that, I don't even remember. I think it's 4 months ago. I didn't even think about getting it. I wasn't even thinking about getting a car, right? And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to get that Tesla. It's awesome. Now I see Teslas everywhere. Why is that? Because the reticular activating system in my brain is now keeping my eyes open for Teslas. I see them all over the place now. It's crazy. That stuff works for real. It does work. Set up the vision board, but as well, like put up, visualize with pictures, and you put it in a place where you can see it. That's huge. You have to do that. But I think that one thing that's often underestimated is is coaching. It's like, if you're not sure, like if you're sure you really want to do this, and but you're not really, there's still a gap for you. Like you still don't know how to analyze a deal or how to underwrite a deal or whatever. Spend a little bit of money and get the coaching. Spend $1,000 or whatever it is. If it's going to take $1,000 to hold up, something's going to change your whole life. Dion, if I can tell you can change your whole life for $1,000 and I can give you the tools to become a multi-millionaire, would you spend $1,000?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Of course you would, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? I mean, you'll make all that money back in one deal. I mean, and that's the thing though too. It's like, having done it myself already, I see what it can do. I mean, as a CIO, I was making some big money. I doubled my annual salary in one deal. By closing one deal, I doubled my net worth in one transaction. That's just one. I've done a lot, right? That's just one transaction. So it's like, to me, it's a no-brainer, man. It's like, yeah, I would totally do it. I mean, the way that I did it was probably longer than it needed to be. And it's like, yeah, okay, fine. You want to go waste the time on doing it yourself? You could do that too. But time is the one thing that we will never get more of. No matter how much money you have, you'll never get more time. Steve Jobs was a multi-billionaire, and still couldn't make it. Still ended up dying anyway at 55 years old or something like that. He's still fairly young.
Yeah, he was young.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, man. It's like he had all the money and it didn't really matter, right? You only go once around the ride. That's it. So if you're gonna do it, let's make it count. You got to make it count.
Yeah. So is there any reading material that you would suggest for new people?
Well, it's funny. So what I just said about time, On the Shortness of Life by Seneca. That is the one book that once I read it, it's very, very short. You can actually go to YouTube. Any of your listeners can go to YouTube right now and look it up and listen to it. Just listen to it. You don't have to read it if you don't want to. You can find it. It's all over the internet too. It's in PDF format, or you just go buy it at the bookstore. But it's if you listen to that book, it will change your life. And you listen with intent. Like you don't just listen to it passively. You're actively listening to it and applying the rules that these guys thousands of years ago had said we need to be doing, right? It's crazy, man. It's really good stuff.
Nice. So how could our listeners get a hold of you if they wanted, just to ask some questions, partner with you on a deal, maybe bring a deal to you?
Yeah. Bulletproofcashflow.com is a good start. Friend me on LinkedIn. Also our Facebook page, we have a private group on Facebook. Go ahead and we make it private because we want to make sure that we're letting in people that actually want to get into real estate. And, yeah, join the private group too. But LinkedIn is probably the best choice at this point. Facebook, I'm running out of friend space. So I'm already up to 5,000 friends and I don't want to seem like I'm ignoring you or something.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Agostino. It was definitely a pleasure.
Yeah, good, great. Thanks for inviting me, man. I appreciate it.